And also, we are coming from different institutions, and all those dimensions of operations and what we are doing in those programs is quite pertinent for us to come up with a communique that is showing the different dimensions through which the institutions are trying to inculcate this aspect of energy and maybe alternative sources of energy. But let's not forget that the Association of African Universities is saying we are providing a dialogue platform and bringing all key stakeholders together, which is what normally is not happening. But we are also doing this under the Continental Education Strategy for Africa, which compels us to create dialogue platforms and bring key stakeholders together. Now, what we are going to do is the floor is open, ladies and gentlemen, and we want active participation. Let's all participate in the next 1 to 2 hours. It's simply about the dialogue. Now, whether you want to start by making a comment of what has been presented, or you want to ask a question, but what we want is that we don't want, if somebody has said something, it's not about repeating it, but in different words. We want to accommodate diverse ideas, so that at the end of the day, our discussion is rich. I thank you once again. The floor is open. Thank you.
Should I come there or I should sit here? Or I should stand in front? I can sit here. Okay. Thank you very much. Actually, what I want to say is not basically about what they presented, but in a different dimension. From the experience I've had,
let's hear your name and your institution first.
Okay, my name is Dr. Francis Crunchy. I'm a lecturer at the University of Energy and Natural Resources. My name is Dr. Francis Atakranchi, and I'm a lecturer at the University of Energy and Natural Resources, Department of Energy and Environmental Engineering. So what I'm trying to say here is that basically when we compare the practices of the advanced countries and with the developing countries, as Amma mentioned, she gave examples of countries like UK and Sweden and those countries who are already active in this bioenergy and other energy types. But when we go critically into what they do, the basic fact is that the production cost of these various bioenergy and renewable energy technologies cannot be, there cannot be a competition between the production of the renewable energy and the biofossil energy. So normally what the advanced countries, the government do is that they give real and practical incentives to motivate these players who want to bring on board various sources of renewable energy. For instance, in Sweden like this, some municipalities, before you can get license to operate a fuel station, the government wants you to also bring on board any renewable energy at the fuel station, for instance, biogas. So you cannot sell diesel or you cannot sell petrol in your fuel station without selling biogas. If you cannot sell biogas, you don't get the license to operate. So these kind of policies, which the government has shown the commitment in helping these industries, it makes it possible for the bioenergy to be widespread in the whole country, so that as far as we are trying to use the fossil fuel to supplement our energy need, we also bring some at least minute percentage of this renewable energy to help the cause. So these various different types of energy all come into the energy mix. And the issue of energy crisis or difficulties in energy is not seen in these countries. So actually, what I want to finally here is that if the government want to push for this, it is possible, because the government can give real and practical incentives, such as subsidies in taxes and other things like what I've mentioned, so that it will motivate these players in renewable energy, or even those people who are into this fossil fuel energy, to also bring on board some kind of renewable energy to bring a dissemination, so that our energy mix will not be one-dimensional. So the government has also had a stake in it. And another example I want to give about this kind of incentive is like if you use, let's say, a biogas car. If you buy a biogas car, if you park at a public parking place, you don't pay anything. It is free. That is some of the policies that is happening there. So in that case, even parking, somebody can park for, let's say, 4 hours or 3 hours or something at a place, and that motivation alone for buying biogas car or something like that, or a car that can use, let's say, 80% of other ethanol or something like that. I mean, it will motivate or encourage ordinary people to also go into the renewable energy, so that when we mix with the fossil, at least we can have a widespread dissemination. So that is what I just want to put across. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we clap hands for him? But I just want to have like one or two follow-up questions to say. Now, you talked of the biogas car. Do we have biogas cars in Africa? Number two, you said for those industries, because we need to exhaust these things in order to check the practicalities and possibilities of having the biogas plant also. Would we be able to produce one here, or we need to import that person who wants to sell fuel? We said they can also have a biogas, but I know there should be a biogas plant. Can we make biogas plants here and not import them? Thank you. Quickly, please.
Yes, we can make biogas plant here without importing it. And the second part, the first part of the question was that, what was it?
Do we have biogas?
Yes, nowadays, all the cars that are being manufactured, they do it, we call the dual fuel service, we call it flex vehicles. All the new vehicles that are being manufactured, they do it with the aim of getting both either renewable energy and those. So when it comes, it's just a matter of conversion. So that is what they are doing. All the new cars, they have called flex. They use flex fuels.
Thank you. First here, then, ladies, please. I'm looking forward to your participation. No gender here. All energy people. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I love the presentation of all the presenters. I say I like the presentation of all the speakers, and I'm challenged to maybe go further in some areas. What I want to say is that I think one of the speakers made mention of it. You see, we do not have STK Jokoto. STK Jokoto, renewable energy, my area, whole technical university. Yes.
Please, let's not forget to say our name, our institution, and our area of specialization. Yeah. That's very important for us. Thank you.
Yeah. So there's one of the speakers made mention of, in summary term, no political will in implementation when it comes to implementation. And I think that this platform should be able to hammer that area, because we have beautiful plans and recommendations as to how to mitigate some of the problems that we are facing, but the political will is not there. What I want to say is that, yes, any renewable energy is good, but let's start from solar energy, the use of solar energy. Of late, the manufacture of the panels and other things has been on increase. So the cost is reducing drastically. It's no longer an issue. Of course, if you take the entire renewable system, the solar system, you can say that the capital cost or the initial cost is high, but if you look at the maintenance and the long-term effect, you will see that it is the way to go. So we must hammer solar energy to start with. I know government has rolled out a program where solar panels are supposed to be installed on the roofs of various homes, and there was some kind of government intervention. I do not know, maybe my brother from this thing will help us. These are the things that we should be doing, where individuals are generating what? Power, or yes, power. That is one. The second thing I want to ask is that we have beautiful renewable energy laws, acts, but implementation of the cash is also a challenge. We have what we call feed-in tariff to encourage individuals to go into the generation of power in various homes. But when it comes to implementation, we are not there. So these are areas that we need to hammer, the implementation of the policies that we ourselves have made towards the use of what? Renewable energy. I will rest my case for now, and maybe you come again.
Thank you. So what we will do if, when a case is raised, we want to make a follow-up as quickly as possible. Before I give to the chairperson on this one, I'm asking, can we locally manufacture solar panels? Because in my country, we had import from China. At what cost and how strong are they, number one? Number two, to the rest of us, what can we do to make sure that we push for political will? Did you hear my question? But my comment is that thank you for bringing the individual dimension. Because whenever we are involved as AAU, sometimes people ask us, like when you have come for this dialogue, you tell us, what have you done so far about the alternative sources of energy? We are the Association of Universities Secretariat, but you are the Association of African Universities. And each individual, if we take an individual approach which comes to a cumulative approach, I think I commend that one. So the two questions, how do we proffer for political will to implement? And also the second one, can we locally manufacture? We want direct answers to these things.
Yeah, the issue of local manufacture of panels should not be a strong issue because the panel is not used alone. We look at the totality. Because if you look at the system, the panel is no longer a serious issue when it comes to implementation. So we need to look at the totality. Government, I know, has been giving tax relief for people who want to kind of import those things. But you see, the law is such that if you import a system, that's a complete system, then the tariff applies. But if you are able to, if you are only importing just parts, they are taxed. So the thing is not so clear. So I do not want us to concentrate so much on the panel because that is not the main issue when it comes to solar. We have to look at the thing.
Give him, and we come to the chairman and we come to him. I know you have, I don't know whether they are same issues or different issues. Same. We want people who are contributing towards this so that we discuss it and we wrap it up before we pick up another issue. As quickly as possible, sir.
Yeah, I am Dr. Atunyangson, Department of Physics,
Yes.
Energy and Environment Group, University of Ghana. I am answering the question whether or not we should manufacture the... Yeah, I think it should be, we should, because we have the capacity. We have all kinds of engineering schools, departments in this country. Yes. And so I think we should focus on manufacturing solar panels here. I mean, it has so many benefits. One of them is technology transfer and then improvement of technology. And so if we can adapt that, okay, then as we progress as a people, generations after generation, we'll be able to manufacture these things for ourselves. The sun is going to be there forever. I mean, till the solar system collapses. Yeah, and so for me, we have to manufacture it ourselves.
Thank you very much. Is it the same? We want people who are contributing towards the whole. We will come. It's the same contribution to this one.
Yeah.
No, we want to kill this one.
Yeah, considering the solar manufacture, there is the development of the Renewable Energy Master Plan by the Ministry of Energy and then the Energy Commission, together with the associated stakeholders in Ghana. It has reached an advanced state. It has gone to cabinet, and final editings are being made. Now, the strategy is that there has to be promotion of manufacturing of renewable energy technologies in Ghana. The current energy policy is also taking that. Now, what we want to do is that, you know, there are tax incentives on renewable energy systems if they are important. Once the manufacturing starts, then we take away that tax incentive for importation. Then we put the tax incentive on the locally manufactured one.
Yes.
So that it will force people to consider the locally manufactured ones instead of the imported one. So some policy directions are along to promote local manufacture. But when it comes to manufacturing of solar cells, two companies are already in the business. One is Atema now. The second one, they started manufacturing the cells. Of course, one thing we've noticed is if you are starting, the physicists here will beg, if you are starting silicon from the scratch and go through that semiconductor process, that is energy intensive. So the trick is to get some kind of processed semiconductors where they will condition it, perhaps through the physicists with the diffusions and those, the doping aspect will be done here. But the ingots of the semiconductor, the raw material will be imported. Because extraction of silicon from semiconductor is as energy intensive as extraction of aluminium. With that way, you need an equivalent of vacuum here to do that. So that is...
but that one is being imported. What about tax incentives?
You want to receive tax incentives so that it will shift this thing. Now, another policy direction. But the political is the issue. Okay. Another policy direction is that we want to make it mandatory for government to create a dedicated market for renewable energy products. Because the government is the #1 buyer of commodities. So if the government is involved in any renewable energy installation, it should be locally manufactured. So if the investors know that if I build a solar manufacturing plant in Ghana, there's a dedicated market, you invest. If it's a biogas plant for schools, it should be locally. The material should be locally. Before Ghana government goes to importation, then there's no local manufacturing base. But once it's being manufactured locally, the government is sort of being compelled to buy the locally made ones. If it's even inferior, we have the view as Doc has said. That's how we started. You see, so that it helps the local industry. But let's pray for the political will. We put it on paper and implementations and all that.
The political will.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Seth Kofidebra. I'm with the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission and also a lecturer at the University of Ghana, School of Nuclear and Allied Sciences. Now, you speak of solar energy as if it's the solution to all because the sun is available. You talk about overnight cost or investment or capital cost coming down from over the years to, I think, 1,900 per kilowatt. Now, there is the issue. Who pays for the decommissioning of those solar panels? How is it disposed of? Who pays for it? You talk about batteries. Who is paying for the dumping of those batteries? Have you thought about it? Does the cost of the solar actually inculcate that decommissioning cost? The answer is no. Till we are able to put in the cost of decommissioning of solar panels, solar plants, to know the actual cost of these plants, we will continue to put our head in the sand and say it's the cheapest. But in fact, it may not be. We need to do a life cycle cost analysis, not just the upfront cost or the capital cost or the investment cost or the overnight cost. No. We need to do a life cycle analysis. How much materials are used in producing these plants? We need to do that. How much in terms of even water? Now, we talk about solar. We think when we put the solar panels there and it starts producing, that is all. No. Solar panels needs to be cleaned. And we are in an environment where it's dusty. A little dust film formed on these panels reduces the efficiency drastically. It's exponential. Every physicist here knows it. We put the plants there, we don't clean it. And we expect it to also produce at that same capacity, a 16% efficiency. It's not possible. Now, let me just touch a little bit on the first speaker. I think it's about time we stop the silo analysis that we have done. Energy will do this, water will do this, land will do this. It's becoming too much, it's not productive anymore. Now, you talked about biofuels, bioplants. When we plant the bioplants that we are going to use in producing the biofuels, where are we going to get our food from? Have you thought about it? Yes, I'm talking about food. No, relax. Not all lands are good for one plant, or not all lands are good for all plants. It depends on what you want to grow. So what are you giving up to produce that bio plant? We talk about energy. A lot of the plants uses water. Now something is coming up that the academia needs to tap into and need to tap into quick. We call it CLEWS. Climate, land, energy, and water. It's a nexus that you need to solve. You need water to cool the plants. You need the same water to do irrigation. You need the land to put the power plants on. You need that same land to plant. So you need to do everything in unison. We can't keep doing things in silos anymore. Thank you very much.
Is it on the same? On the same. Okay, we have him. We come to you. It's becoming what? Okay, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. My name is Johnson Lolonyo Abusa, doctoral candidate at the University of Ghana, School of Nuclear and Allied Sciences. I have a bit of a problem with the representative from the Energy Commission's submission. Well, we usually talk about government doing this, government doing that, government doing that, but we don't really see any implementation. He was talking about government actually helping out with locally manufactured goods. We can see that there is one of our scientists producing cars here in Ghana. Yet the government purchases cars from abroad. And even cars like Mahindra, which are not strong enough, are being bought and brought into the country. Whilst we have Kantanka producing pickups here. No, that is my question. So what is the government like? Is it like the government comes out and says this and then does the other thing, or it's something that they are working together to get together? Thank you very much.
Quickly, before the rest
we want to move on to another area, but let it be very short.
Okay. What Dr. Seth Deborah said is captured in my presentation when we did the optimization. We said that we don't consider any single source of energy as the solution, but it's a sustainable mix. Of course, the solar group will definitely try to argue, like the biogas group and the rest also did, to convince you that they have a share. But when it comes to the policy implementation level, We all know that all the energy sources have their pluses and minuses, and they are integrated accordingly. In fact, solar energy and renewable energy, there are also issues of the off-grid solutions. There are island communities that would not be practicable to send them grid electricity. You have to put the electricity underground, underwater, and the cost involved for that submarine cable is said that if they, and they also, the SDGs say that leave no one behind. So that community also needs electricity. And you can't say because you can't send them grid electricity, and if solar is there, they shouldn't get it. Or that area is in the bush and they have access to bioenergy, they can't get it. So the solution is the sustainable energy mix, where at certain points there is that the optimization will not favor solar. But within that certain location, it favors solar. And these net meterings and all these things are also being considered. So it's not like when it comes to energy commission and the energy ministry, we don't consider a single source of energy as the way forward. They all have their roles to play, and we fit them where they belong.
Thank you very much. I think we have a... But let's make it short because we need to move on.
I just want to, I don't know whether it's a word of caution. I don't know. Please, I think we are here to bring ideas as to how to move forward. Yes. We are not here to compete among ourselves. Excellent. Whether solar is better than nuclear or something. I don't think that is the reason. Mm-hmm. If you want to talk on an issue which is not your area, I think that you need to leave it.
Sorry. Thank you. No. Please. No. Excuse me. What we are saying here is alternative sources of energy. But what I want to tell you is during tea break, I was discussing with him, and I think we said that there was a PhD student who did a research which showed that it was not economically viable to produce energy that way. But the student still forced to say, let me take cooking results. We all know cooking results. To say that it is viable to produce energy this way. But that is a weakness. Because again, your contribution is okay from atomic energy because it's showing us the other dimension. In fact, this is the reason why we are here. So that we are not, we are looking at alternative sources of energy. But the whole discussion of comparison is good because for people like he has said, where it is more profitable and cost effective to have solar, they have solar. But at the back of their mind, they have all that information. So I think for me, everything is in order. The reason why we took all of you to come here is we want to break those silos so that people will always help each other. Even if we are saying it's a solar plant, there's no problem with a physicist or an atomic energy person to come and advise, because when you do atomic energy or renewable energy, there is no way you can study it in isolation. You always study it with other key areas. Ladies and gentlemen, the discussion continues. Thank you. Another area now, for the meantime, the bias has been on solar, and we want to move on to something. You said you have something else.
Yes, yes, I have something else, and but Mr. Anderson briefly touched on that.
Please, your name, your institution, and your specialist area, and speak up.
Sorry, I'm Dr. Edward Awafo, lecturer at the University of Energy and Natural Resources, with the Department of Mechanical and Manufacturing Engineering. Good. Yeah, so the point I really wanted to raise is, you can hear me? Yeah, the point I wanted to raise was about what Mr. Anderson touched on briefly in his concluding remarks about the need to focus attention a lot more on the remote, hilly, and island communities. I think the last time I checked, there are about 2 million people living in those communities that don't have access to any form of energy sources for productive uses. And this is what I think we should be focusing our attention a lot more on now. Because there's evidence in the science that the harnessing renewable energy resources into productive uses is still a lot of there's still a lot of challenges with some of these things, with technologies, with issues of sustainability, and even how to bring the resources together. And I listened to some presentations, and I was having a discussion. I started a discussion with one of the speakers just before we resumed for this session. That yes, she presented a very nice picture about bioenergy resources, but it's not that really. There are a lot of challenges with it. For example, the fecal matter resource issues. You have to be able to, because these issues are not concentrated at one place. How about the issues of collecting them? That's a huge source of cost that we need to look at. How about the issues of technologies to convert the resources to useful energy forms? These are issues we have to look at. Even sustainability issues, with the issues of climate change, variabilities, and also impact on some of these resources. There are a lot of challenges. So my point here really is that yes, for Ghana, we are doing about what, 85% access rate now. How about the 2 million people in the rural areas? What do we do? And these are the people we need to actually focus our attention on. Look at the resources that are available, like off-grid systems, for them to have a productive use of energy. Because you have all of these people moving to the city centers because they have no source of energy to be able to kind of get into commercial activities. And as human beings, they have to be able to produce to survive. So why don't you look at things like hybrid systems? One resource may not be enough. You can have issues of solar combined with what? Bioenergy resources, which is quite abundant quite abundant in our system. Why don't you look at a combination of these systems and then kind of deploy technologies that will allow these people to use, rather than wanting to have what? Additional resource of energy for those who already have access to the great power. So I think that this is where let's if you can turn attention to that, and also provide, as I said, let's not leave anybody behind, as the agenda 2063 says.
Thank you. Give that guy and we come to you. Then we come to the end.
Thank you. I'm watching Richard from CAF University College, Department of Mechanical Engineering. My contribution is geared towards the use of wind turbines. When we look at Ghana, there are most places where we can find wind or high wind speeds, where like Azim and even around the coast, where we have higher wind speed. So those places where we find it very difficult to send electricity to that place, we can just use maybe a wind turbine, either 2 or more, about 5 of it. When we put it there with the help of maybe we position it at the vertex places, and know that maybe this particular place has the average wind speed to produce the power the people around have, so that the people around who are not even having electricity can have access to electricity. Our next contribution is to combine the solar, as my brother was saying, with the wind turbine. You know, we have in most wind turbine places or in a wind farm, we have a lot of space where we can also add up maybe a solar panel to improve the quality of the power which is being produced, which can enhance our electricity production. Okay.
Can I follow up with a question?
Okay.
I can't do it without a microphone. It's a CAF. I heard that you did a mini project. Please, can you elaborate more as quickly as possible? And what we want is the feasibility. How practical is it to make it on a bit of a larger scale? And what does it require? Thank you. Very quickly.
In our school, we discovered that mostly we have electrical problems. So we, the mechanical department, in collaboration with the electrical departments, came together to design a mini wind turbine in our school, which can produce a little power. Though before we can get the maximum power, we should get a wind farm. But due to lack of resources, we couldn't do it as we wish or as we wanted to do it. So this is how we did it. We didn't use anything too expensive. We used just a PVC pipe and made sure it is being designed that the blade was in the correct position or in the right angle. So with a little or a small air, we will see that the turbine will be turning. And as the turbine is turning from Father J. Slow.
Thank you very much. I think as an institution, you know the dimension where we have said higher education. What is your contribution? I think if I link up with the previous speaker, this is the other way to go. Something that even the rural community can afford, maybe with a bit of primitive technology, in the hope that at least they have something. So let's come to you, and we come to the lady. There was a...
Thank you very much. I'm Eric Osei Sando, a lecturer at University of Energy and Natural Resources, and I'm with the Mechanical and Manufacturing Engineering Department. We are here to look at how we can best address our recent energy crisis as a nation. And we realized that as a nation, we started from somewhere. And if we had maybe followed the kind of plans that we've been putting in place, our institutions have been putting in place, maybe we wouldn't have gotten to this place. And we've been talking about political war. And this is something that we should all come together to make sure that it's being exercised. Because if we are getting the right amount of energy, it's going to be to the benefit of all. So you don't have to just allow a handful of us to just maybe use approaches that will not help all of us. Why am I saying this? We started with isolated diesel power plants, and the system realized that we need a bigger generation because of maybe Valco. And you realize that even we started experiencing drought in 1972, but because the population that were using power were small, we did not experience this kind of crisis that we are experiencing now. So Akosomo was brought into being, and there were studies that showed that we have to go to the next power plant, which is what we call Pong, and that was even delayed. It was delayed by the system, and we had our issues with that, but later it was implemented and it came to help. Then we waited till 1997 when we realized that the hydro wasn't enough for us, so they have to bring in TAPCO and TICO at Abuaze, which meant that, I'm going to summarize, which meant that we are not following plans. We will come up with the plans, and nobody made sure that the plans are being achieved. There were no control measures. Energy Commission is doing an excellent job, but if you are planning and those who are supposed to make sure that it is implemented are not doing it, then how are you going to get the kind of support that we want to have from our energy resources? But my last point is that we have several energy sources, as it has already been mentioned. We can prioritize them. We have mini hydro sites that have been identified, about 21 of them. What are we doing to them? Solar is very, very practicable. Go to Flensburg, a small town, I will not even call it city, in Germany. We have higher solar radiation here than they are producing 88 megawatts from solar. So if solar, even solar, there are places in Accra where we can find these rich people. It's not a matter of just even going to the overseas. We can supply some people here with solar if they can afford, so that we free our destiny grid for industrial purposes. That is the way we should go.
Thank you very much. Political will is an issue. Okay, I'll come. There's one lady, so I'll give the lady first and come to the chair. The political will is an issue. I think that is a big issue. We need to say, how do we approach the political will? Okay, quickly, please.
Okay, I am Nerissa Anku from Ho Technical University. My area of specialization is energy and environment. I think Miss Atefua did a wonderful presentation. I have taken personal interest in her presentation, but I have some questions for her. Some things are bothering my mind. Your research is a confirmation of what other people have done. So many people have proposed hydro power plants on River Ankobra, but I want to know how feasible that project is, the capital intensiveness, and is it economically feasible? Also, you said that your power plants or the projects that you have proposed are 90% dependable. You talked of 90% dependability, what were the were your criteria, or what did you put into consideration? I would like to know.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nerissa, right? I hope I got it. When I say 90% dependability, I'm talking about the flow. What I'm saying is that the flow will be available 90% of the time throughout the year. So if we take a year, let's assuming a year is made up of 100 days. I'm saying that this amount of flow will be available for 90 days in the year. Yes, for the feasibility, it's not like it's the first time being done in the world. Other places are doing it. If you go to Netherlands, it's being done. If you go to China, it's being done. What we are saying is we are not asking people to connect it to the main grid. We are saying it should be done in isolation to minimize transmission losses and hence the costs involved in losing a lot of power during transmission. So it will be in a particular area. It will be serving a particular group of people, serving the purpose for industry or households. I hope I've answered you.
Thank you very much, because that aspect, I think we are concentrating, like he said, let's consider those disadvantaged in the raw settings. And I think the basin too, I'm not sure of the Ghana places, but I think it would be good to have that decentralized one, and it should be relatively cheaper. But it's up to him to represent us to say, can we pursue this less expensive one? Because I think it's the magnitude of the project. I think she showed 3 sites, and one of the sites, I think it really showed that what you would need, I think the narrower the gauge, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. I think we are not here to crash our heads together. So let's feel free to accommodate the views of others. Now, is it in my? Oh, okay. I thought everybody knows me. Okay, so I'm Dr. Yamwa, Stephen Yamwa, from Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, Nuclear Power Institute to be specific, and also a lecturer at the School of Nuclear and Allied Sciences, University of Ghana. Now, in my introductory remarks, I made mention of the fact that as a country, we have to stop this ad hoc measures of dealing with our energy situation. That is the only way we can go. We should have a long-term plan which will accommodate the short-term needs and requirements. Now, let me pose this question. I'm not asking anybody to answer that. In the 60s, when Nkrumah had commissioned the Akosombo project, which was producing over 1,000 megawatts of power with a small population, with low access rate, Nkrumah, right after that, also commissioned the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, looking into the future and preparing towards the future, because he realized that the country will grow, population will grow, we need to build our industries, we need to expand in all aspects of our life. So we cannot depend, he realized right from that onset that we cannot depend on the hydro. So we need to think into the future. And that is something that we are missing in our country right now. And interestingly, when he was overthrown, okay, the new administration brought in scientists to review the projects that Nkrumah had started. And one of the recommendations that came up was that in view of the Akosombo hydro project, Ghana will not need nuclear power for the purpose of producing electricity. Now listen, for the next 20 years. Now, we've been talking about having our first energy challenges in 1984. How many years after that? 20 years. Probably with considering this guy as a prophet. But that's not a prophet issue. It was a real analysis that he did. Now, what our people refused to, what our people didn't get was that requiring additional power in 20 years' time, you need to plan it 20 years before. So we need to do that thing. And no serious country will plan the energy resource on one or two options. So we need to bring on board. In every country, we have what we call this base load option, which is the minimum amount of power that is required at all time, 24/7. And for such base load, you need generation options that are producing also 24/7 at higher capacity, and then you bring in the other options to supplement and support it. So we have to think along this context as we deliberate on what we have to do to ensure that we solve our energy situation right once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think he's talking about planning, and that somebody's also talked about monitoring and evaluation. And the other point, I think, which is also key, is that we need to look ahead. In most cases, populations grow exponential, and we need to make sure we plan for that. The element of research has also been emphasized. Let's give him.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name, good afternoon. My name is Enoch Yeboah Ejepong. I'm a mechanical engineer and a product of the Common University of Science and Technology, having been trained in Takwa in the mining community. I'm a product also of the Aarhus University, having been trained as a sustainable development management business management consultant, and then also of the University of California, Davis, having been trained in energy policy. I bring all these up to sort of have an understanding of the questions that have been raised, to talk about the fact that higher education in Ghana and its stakeholders, yes, have contributed a lot. And I speak also to the subject of the fact that human beings who have been trained are all part of those people who have been contributed into the energy sector. Because if you go into ECG, VRA, and all the other places, you would find engineers who have been trained. What I just want to add on to the question and to answer it better is the fact that maybe we need to look at other aspects of management and leadership, because I find that personally as a technocrat as one of the huge challenges we have, because you find many people understanding and knowing their trade and their practice, but unfortunately sometimes it's difficult to have that zeal and that will to be able to make that informed decision and to advise people otherwise. So I serve in the Ghana Institute of Engineers on the Programs and Projects Committee and other committees as well. And I know the work that the commission tries, the Engineering Council tries to do. I know what the Energy Commission tries to do in its work. But many a times, like we've said over and over, we have issues of political will. But again, if you want to look at it on the political will side, the question one always tries to ask is, what about technically putting out the information there and standing our guards and saying that, hey, you know what, if you're not going to listen to our planning we've talked about and all the issues that we have identified which are causing the challenges, then there's a problem. So I think one of the areas of disconnect is the issue of leadership, management consultant, whatever it is that has to be done, which we have to articulate more. And I feel that if you consider what we are doing here as a dialogue, and first and foremost, let me just applaud you. I received the invitation like last night or something and decided, hey, let me at least spend my lunchtime in here to help contribute to the discourse, because I can't stay all through, or I couldn't have been in earlier. But I feel people have done a good job talking. And so what I'll say is it needs to go beyond just the talk. I know there'll be communiques, there'll be stuff out there, but it should be more. Let's have more practical sessions to engage. And I know various industry practice persons who are willing to take on people to come even onto the field to see exactly what we mean when we say solar, what we mean when we talk about waste to energy, what we mean when we talk about bio, because sometimes it seems abstract and is not connected. So I would want to also throw that invitation out and say, please, let's connect more with industry. Let's have applied research, okay? Let's be able to, we talked about, for example, the issue of numbers with regards to the taxes and things like that. When you bring in solar components, I've done a research on that. I mean, I did that through the Renewable Energy Association of Ghana. But I'm seeing that if we have academia decide that we want to go to the ports and harbor, or wherever these items are coming in and want to churn the numbers and do all the calculations that are required, and be able to then engage the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Energy, and say, well, the economics are like this. These are the numbers. If you give the incentives, this is what it looks like. That's if you're putting on local manufacturing. But if you're also allowing the importation to happen, because in a certain period, you definitely do need that importation, it would make a great sense of deal that academia and higher education have connected. Okay, so before I just hand over the mic, I'll just say one last thing that has to do with the issue of generation. Yes, we talked about generation. Well, in Ghana, as we currently speak, I'm sure the numbers have been put out there. We are currently generating more than we really need. And the issue is, what do you do with that power? I mean, the neighboring markets we are trying to talk about, in my opinion, are not ready enough to even pick that power. You know, so technically, we are not supposed to be doing more generation to a large extent as we speak. Right now, is more PWEs. I mean, productive use, PUEs, productive use of energy. We need to be able to channeling the energy that we have in itself into various productive, economic, beneficial activities so that people can get out of poverty. Because I find it very interesting that, like we've all said, yes, we find ourselves not being able to, if we are to use solar, generate as much as we can, this, that. There's so much we can do. I think it's interesting for us to also come with very practical solutions, think through those as we are saying right now, and move forward. So one last practical solution I would say is, if it's curriculum development that must be done. I know the University of Natural Resource and Energy is doing a number of those. KNUST has that with the Energy Center. I was just speaking to Cape Coast Polytechnic, who are having a project with, Cape Coast Technical University, forgive me, who are having a project with the DAAD and the German government trying to develop curriculum. Maybe there are these things happening in different areas. Let's have different types of conversations amongst ourselves as the universities, you know, to sort of churn out curriculum that works. And it could even go down even to the level of secondary schools and to primary schools, where you have energy kids clubs and things like that to educate the mind and to change mindsets. I think we can do that in a lot of ways. Thank you.
Thank you for the contribution. I think there are a number of issues that I've picked. One of them also is, as he was talking, I was reflecting to say, should it always be the government? Can't we have individuals? Can't we have universities also making their initiatives like to source funds? But also I have challenges with always looking for donor funding. That one, I don't know. But because everything is like we are handing over a plate to say, can you donate? But organizing ourselves as institutions to now say, we need to prioritize and do this as an income generating project, something like that, or as a way of now taking it up and taking it to another level. There are many issues there. Please digest this thing which I've asked. What can institutions do as institutions? And can't we have individual companies too, without necessarily always looking at government? Because if we continue to say there's no political will, then if they will, we do everything. But you see that we don't continue to have political will. What do we do? Secondly, as for the energy, he says we are producing more than enough. Why is it that, like yesterday, 2 hours we had no energy? Huh? And then the issue of saving, the issues of affordability by the many of the people in the country have a lot now to push us to say, let's talk about alternative sources of energy, because others are more expensive than others. Let's hear from.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Alison Felix Hughes from the University of Ghana Energy and Environmental Group. Thank you to the presenters. I think that I've learned a lot from your presentation. But I want to also look at this discussion from the point of view, taking off from where the last speaker, his contribution is that we have, much more installed capacity. So it's not a matter of trying to bring in more energy. And then you also made a point that why I said that, I mean, we have power outages, you know, just recently. I think what we need to look at is how do we bring in technology into the energy sector. I mean, we need to start, you know, deploying smart energy systems. We need a smart grid system. Because if we have a smart grid system, it will be able to help us to mitigate against these power outages so that the switching will be automatic. You won't even know when one transformer is down or when one generating system is down. And then I think we even go further. The conversation has been about how to bring in more energy. But what about conservation? We need to look at how to efficiently use the energy that we have. How do we bring in smart system in our homes, in our offices, and even in the factories? And these are technologies that are available, and I think that the Energy Commission should start looking at how do we develop this technology locally. For example, we went off for the coffee break, and there was no one in this room. If we had a smart system, the air conditioner would have gone off. And then when we come in, it comes back on. And then how many of us are not guilty of trying to charge our mobile phones and then leave the charger on when the phone is not connected to the charger? How many of us are guilty of putting our system on standby? All the time when the equipments are on standby, they consume electricity. In fact, it's called leakage electricity. And this goes to, you know, consume the electricity. I mean, the ability to pay, all right, may be there. But then we need to also know that we do not need to waste the energy that is produced. And so it goes a long way of maybe coming up with more policy on educating the populace on how to start to accept these smart devices that will help us to sort of reduce the consumption. Other policy could be where, I mean, in other countries, we look at the peak hour, okay? So that if you are going to use your energy source on peak hour, you pay more, okay? And leave it to maybe the factories to use at that time. And then also, just look at the homes. The Energy Commission came up with a policy some time ago to change incandescent lamp into the energy-saving bulbs. Those energy-saving bulbs now are obsolete because the LEDs have come, which are even more energy or efficient. And I'm looking at when will the Energy Commission also come on with this policy of moving these so-called energy efficient bulbs and bringing in LED bulbs. And then also looking at, I know you also were able to remove some of the refrigerators that were, I mean, not energy efficient. But let's look at other energy efficient appliances. Come up with policies so that, I mean, we can conserve rather than just trying to come up generating more energy, and this energy is going waste. Finally, if you look at even the transmission lines that, I mean, we have, there's a lot of losses on these lines. And so we need to also try to, you know, come up with the smart way of transmitting energy so that we cut down on the losses, and then we'll have enough energy to do all that we want to do. Thank you.
That was a rich contribution. I give, you have said something earlier. No, we come to you, we come to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to laud what my sister, okay, I'm Cornelius Kusi from Renewable Energy Department. I'm from University of Energy and Natural Resources. I'm a student. I've been doing a research into gyms. We step into the gym, we exercise, we keep fit, but we come out expending a lot of energy. Now, why not step into the gym and use the elliptical machine for an hour, and you end up producing energy out of using that elliptical machine. Now, 1 hour on an elliptical machine can produce fairly from 100 watts to 150 watts. 1 hour. So let's say someone comes into the gym, uses the elliptical machine for 1 hour. Another person comes to use this machine for another hour. They keep on using it. It keeps on piling up. It keeps on, and you are able to retrofit this elliptical machine to produce some kind of energy. The smallest energy, little drops of water make a mighty ocean. The smallest contribution you can make to produce the energy you use. If we are making a conscious effort to use the energy and also produce a percentage out of what we are using, it can go a long way to help. Now, I want us to take a look at this. Why not break out of the chain of the power balance, where we need to generate and use that same amount we generate? Why not do more research into storing up the energy? Now, I read an article from Professor Donald Sadoway. He proposed, he has actually started a research into the liquid metal battery. Now, what is this liquid metal battery? This liquid metal battery works with the same analogy as a complete cycle aluminum smelting factory. Now, the liquid metal battery is made up of 3 layers. Now, the electrode, which is the positive, then the electrolyte, then the negative part. Now, these are 3 layers which are together but are separated with density. They have different densities. They are immiscible, so they can't mix. Now, these layers, one may say the first layer may be made of magnesium, maybe the second layer an electrolyte, then the third layer may be an anode, something like maybe copper. But he made so this liquid metal battery will, as the cathode is shedding the electrons through the electrolytes, they don't mix. The 3 layers don't mix. Now, he proposed a freight container size will produce close to, or will be able to store close to 2 megawatt hour of energy. And he also has a three-quarter inch size battery, which can be able to store close to 1 kilowatt hour. So I want to urge us to take a look into trying to find other ways of storing this energy, because we can produce a lot. Now the problem comes where we can store it. So if we,
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have the people from South Africa online. So we are going to afford them time. But whilst we are having them, I wanted us to maybe think of the question that we will have after their presentation. And the question is, how do you think you and your institutions can contribute to improve the current situation? I think we have heard the gaps that have been raised by many of those speaker after speaker. So as higher education, in conjunction with our government, how can we then make sure from now on we work together in order to make things happen? Please let them come online. Thank you. We are having our colleagues from South Africa, and we have been connected to them by Miss Nodumotlamini. We are very grateful. They will help us to try and say, okay, there they are online.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry. Greetings from Cape Town. Thank you for having me at your at the AAU Energy Dialogue today. And thank you especially to Dr. Violet and Nodumo Tomini for arranging me to speak to you today, and to Ransford for helping to set up this virtual participation. And if I may say, it's been very interesting listening to the discussions and the dialogue that you've had up to now on dealing primarily with Ghana's energy situation, but also just speaking generally about some of the ideas and thoughts that have been generated in terms of, you know, how do we increase energy access? How do we, you know, especially for accessing people in rural areas and people who live far from the grid, how do we, you know, build the sustainable energy mix that we've spoken about at length? And in particular, I was very interested to hear, and it's very exciting to see that there's so much already happening in terms of education and curriculum around energy access and around these issues. And you know, it's very encouraging to see that you know, that we are actively engaging with these challenges. So the reason I'm speaking to you today, my name is Guy Kanlov, and I'm here at the Energy Research Center at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. The Energy Research Center, which has been here at the UCT, was formed in 2004 and was previously, it was a merger of two institutions that have been going since the 1980s, and a research unit which focuses on sustainable energy, primarily in South Africa, but also we broadly focusing, you know, across the global South and particularly sub-Saharan Africa. Just to give a brief bit of background, we have two master's programs, and Master of Science in Sustainable Energy Engineering and a Master of Philosophy in Energy Development Studies. I myself did the MSc a few years ago, and I've been a research staff member here since 2016. But now the reason I'm speaking to you all today, and the reason for me presenting today, is to talk to you about a program that we've been involved in called the Transforming Energy Access Program, which is a program funded by the Department for International Development, which is the United Kingdom government. And it's the Transforming Energy Access Program, or the T program, as we abbreviate it. There, I see my slides are up. If we can go to slide 2, please. Great. Yes. So the background of the T program, which we started last year, and the idea, the objective overall, is to accelerate access to electricity across. The program itself is based in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. My focus is on Sub-Saharan Africa, and the idea is to accelerate access to electricity, you know, and to serve the sort of the millions of people in Africa who are still unserved by access to electricity. I understand from earlier that Ghana's electricity access rate is about 84%, which is actually roughly equivalent to South Africa's. But I know there are other countries in Africa that would still have a way to go to get to that level. So the program, the T program, began last year in 2017, and essentially we started with a scoping phase and to try and identify what are the challenges and what can be done to support energy access growth. And what we quickly realized was that off-grid energy, the off-grid energy sector, is one area where we believe there's a lot of growth that can happen in terms of particularly reaching access for people in rural areas, people, you know, that are far from the grid, for whom grid access could still be a long way off, and for, you know, where the marginal costs for governments and energy or electricity suppliers to reach those consumers, you know, it's very expensive and will take a while. So we identified that technologies, off-grid technologies such as mini-grids or microgrids, small-scale solar PV, and as we saw in a very good presentation earlier, which I very much appreciated, small-scale hydro. These sorts of off-grid technologies that can be, which with innovative measures can be accelerated and rolled out to increasing communities, both urban and rural, in sub-Saharan Africa. And we believe that supporting these technologies is one way to accelerate energy access. And to that end, there are 3 components to the TE program. The first is, as I said, scaling up these innovative technologies. The second is fostering clean energy partnerships and business development and growth, specifically looking at exactly these things, are how to combat where perhaps political will is a bit difficult. How can businesses and emerging the emerging industry, how can it be more innovative in terms of being proactive and getting its solutions onto the out there, and making it affordable for the consumers, for the people who need to access electricity. And very much coupled to this, the third element, which is the element that we're focusing on here, is supporting skills and enterprise development, and basically providing what we want to do through the Transforming Energy Access Learning Partnerships program, which is this program, which I will speak to in a moment. We basically want to contribute to improving the skills availability of students and graduates entering the sector to be able to contribute and to be able to help to transform energy access. So if we're on to slide 3, which explains a bit more on the program. But essentially, so the Transforming Energy Access Learning Partnerships program the purpose of the program is to encourage and support African universities and higher education institutions to develop higher education academic curricula at predominantly postgraduate level, designed with energy access as a central theme, and intended to respond to the needs of the off-grid energy sector. And we're looking specifically to support and identify universities that we can partner with and that we can offer both technical and financial support to help develop these new curricula. And sort of we're looking at developing either entirely new degree programs or embedding new individual courses or modules into existing programs. We're also very interested and keen to support if there are online learning, which we understand e-learning is kind of the next big thing, and I think has great potential for widening education access in Africa. But specifically, what we aim to do is foster the sort of multidisciplinary skills that we feel and that we've identified, and that I'm sure you also agree are in high demand, especially in this emerging sector of off-grid energy. And what we found during the scoping phase was that sort of a key feedback from some of the stakeholders, some of the businesses operating in the sector, was that they desperately need and are desperately looking for kind of talented generalists, was the expression. But students, graduates, and personnel with soft skills as well as hard skills, as well as the technical skills on say the engineering side of things, but also the soft skills in terms of communication, creative thinking, problem solving, professionalism. And so what we aim to do through this program is develop curricula, or to encourage and support African universities to develop curricula which directly responds to the needs of the sector and provides the necessary skills development, but also particularly emphasizes these sort of the multidisciplinary aspect. And so, I mean, for example, are we still on slide 3? For example, if we have, where you've got, Yes, great. Where you've got a renewable energy engineering degree, say a master's degree in renewable energy engineering. What we would like to support is introducing a course in that program that speaks specifically to, say, entrepreneurship or business development, or policy. So that we're sort of broadening a little bit the sort of skills and abilities that people have when they enter the workspace, specifically because these are the sorts of skills that we need that we feel are needed to help grow the sector. And the long-term objective, so the long-term objective of the TLP program is to have courses or programs up and running sort of by the end of 2021. So over the next phase, as I'll speak to on the next slide, if we could go to that, please. Yes, perfect. What we want to do is over the next few months, in January 2019, we are expecting to release a call for proposals to inviting universities to respond and to propose new courses or new degree programs that precisely respond to the needs that they've identified in the off-grid energy sector or in the energy access theme more broadly. And what we want to do is over the next few years, we'll select up to 8 partner universities that we will work with directly and will support both, as I said, technically and financially. We do have a budget from DFID of, I think, around £600,000 to offer in direct grants to partner universities to help support their curriculum development activities. And we will provide and will facilitate technical support in terms of workshops and training and really getting to what we feel is necessary to produce high quality and sustainable courses and programs. The objective being that by the end of 2021, programs or courses are either already operational or sort of ready to be operational. Key to us is that these programs are sustainable, and one of the key things we'll be looking for when we assess proposals is plans to develop sort of a business case or just some plan to ensure that long-term post 2021 these courses and programs are able to continue running and be supported because we feel that this is going to have a long-term benefit to the off-grid sector. So just a word on the proposal process. We're expecting to release a call for expression of interests in January next year. It's in a couple of months' time, which seems a lot closer than Anyway, and in that we would expect we'd invite interested universities or departments within universities to respond and to provide basic information about the university, and then sort of the high-level plan of what they envisage being able to do in terms of producing and the kind of program or course they'd like to produce. And we will evaluate those EOIs that we receive from universities. I should note also that we would also consider and in fact actively encourage joint proposals. So if 2 or more universities or 2 or more departments within the same university wish to respond, by all means we encourage that, particularly as that would probably, we feel that could help to foster the multidisciplinary element that we're looking for. What is key to us is that we would need to see commitment from sort of at either a sort of vice chancellor level or certainly a senior level in the university that they would support the development of this new program or new curriculum. But essentially, we will gather up the EOIs and we'll evaluate these, and based on those, we would then shortlist a selection of what we consider leading proposals. And invite them to submit a full detailed proposal to us, outlining in more detail the planning and how they envisage utilizing the support that DFID is offering and that we are offering. The view is that by April 2019, we should have selected up to 8 partner universities or partner groups. That's sort of the 6 to 8 is sort of the range that we're looking at. I should also note, as is shown on the slide there, we of course, we're considering applications from all African institutions, with the exception, I guess, of South Africa. But DFID would expect us to give priority to what is considered as priority countries. That said, that doesn't mean that we would outright not consider a proposal from a country outside of those priority countries. But, just to bear in mind that, and one other thing to note is that we are going to ensure that the call for proposals goes out both in English and French, because we don't want to preclude institutions in Francophone countries from participating. We very much want, for example, Cameroon and the DRC. So, yeah, so as I said, the call will go out in January 2019. We'll have many more details on the upcoming program and what the steps are. We hope our aim is to get started and to have the first stakeholder workshop where we bring everyone together and we actively start planning and taking this forward and getting our partners going in terms of developing their curricula. We aim to get started by July 2019. So midway through next year, with a view to completing the partnerships phase of the courses by December 2021. If we could just go to the last slide, please. Just to say, I'm not sure if we have time now, but I'm happy to take questions at this point, if we can facilitate that over the internet like this. But otherwise, please feel free to contact me. My email address is on the slide here. Otherwise, you can find out more about the broader T program, which we've been running in partnership with a UK institution called the Carbon Trust, and there's a whole description of the program and many of the other initiatives that are being run on their website, and there's a link there. But yes, so that's in conclusion. I would say that I hope that this is of interest, and I hope that you'll agree that there is merit to doing a program like this. And I look forward to receiving applications from interested parties. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's clap hands for him.
Thank you.
I think in the interest of time, I'll just speak like two questions or what to Guy before he disappears.
Just a direct question. Which are the priority countries he talks about? He didn't mention them.
Okay, he's asking about the priority countries, but I've seen that Ghana is one of those countries. Am I right, Guy?
Very much. Absolutely. If you go to slide 4.
Yes, I've seen it.
Sorry. Yeah. So we Ghana's there, Kenya. There's the list. So
yes, they just wanted to hear that Ghana is there. Okay, so we really want to thank you for availing yourself. He's no longer online. Hello, Guy.
Hello. Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay, you can't go without us thanking you for the opportunity. But I would have asked you one question to say, if you were listening, there were a number of issues which were raised relating to conservation, relating to different energy supplies, and the challenges associated, to say how can universities move on, of course with the help of the Association of African Universities and maybe people like you Just in summary.
Yeah. I think, like I said, you know, while we sort of while this program is looking for, firstly, I guess, at off-grid energy, that's not to say that you know, we don't very clearly take on board the need for, as was mentioned, conservation and the challenges. And what we're looking for is, what we're specifically looking for through this program is to facilitate curriculum development and learning for students, to empower students and to empower talented people in Africa to be able to grapple with these issues and to come up with creative and innovative solutions that directly respond to these issues and that respond to the challenges that we've mentioned, you know, and overcoming, for example, like the one gentleman I think mentioned, you know, this problem of political will and what can we do, what can be done, you know, to work around that or work with that to reach people and to overcome these hurdles. So certainly we would, you know, and also I'm cognizant that we don't want to, you know, as we've been, you know, often we've had this dialogue with our UK partners that we don't want to be imposing solutions, you know, because it's very easy for, say, a northern country like the UK to come and say, oh, you should just go and, you know, this is how it should be. We don't want to do that. We want it to be very much bottom up, to say, you know, because we know the ideas are there, the knowledge is there, and we want to help facilitate and advance that, so that, as you say, we do go from kind of discussing and understanding the problems to being able to develop and implement solutions to solve the problems. And that's where we see that our program is playing a role in that, by helping universities to produce the skills and the talented people that will be needed to help generate these solutions and to action and implement them. And yeah, if that answers the question.
We want to thank you for all that you have done. Thank you to technology for the connection. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, thank you very much for having me today. And it's really been very interesting to participate and to hear the views of delegates at the meeting, and also to have the opportunity to share
thank you.
On our upcoming program.
We are going to give them the contacts so that they can also directly communicate with you and also get further clarifications on how they go about their applications. Bye-bye.
Right. Please, yes. Right. Thank you.
Say something. You wanted to say something.
No, I just thank you very much for your time.
Bye-bye. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is a grand opportunity for us. Ghana is one of those countries, and as the Association of African Universities, we are actually proud that if we can link you up with such, and like they were saying, he's saying that for the myriad of challenges that we have raised, they will say if they are in partnership with you, let's formulate curricula that can help. It means now the multidisciplinary aspect will be very critical, because you would want the economists, like the two gentlemen contributed. We would want those who are specialists in ICT, and we would want also now breaking the silos of whether you are doing atomic energy, renewable energy, or whatever energy. We just need to put our heads together. Ladies and gentlemen, without answering this question, we can't round off. How do you think you and your institutions can contribute to improve the current situation? As we walk out, what is it that we need to do? Let's be practical. What is that we need to do as universities to make sure? I know we graduate students who go out there. That's why he's emphasizing on curricular development. But from now, what are the immediate practical things that we can do?
Okay, thank you very much once again. So let me take it from two perspectives, because I work in a research institution, and also a university. So let me take it from the university perspective. I think maybe it's about time we get our students close to what we actually teach. The era of cramming and pouring in the examination room, I think, is over. We should at least get the practical feeling of whatever is being taught in the classroom. And that's why we try to deliver at the School of Nuclear and Allied Sciences, where the person takes things in reactor physics and also go to the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission to actually practice what he has learned, to give him more understanding into what he's doing. So I think the era of that cramming and pouring in the examination room has to stop and it has to be abolished. I think our way of delivering as lecturers needs to actually be looked at once again. Another point is on the research aspect. Well, it's part of academia. And I think maybe we also need to connect to the institutions that actually make decisions. And that's what Ghana Atomic Energy is doing at the moment, where the nuclear is not like a gas power plant. It's not like any other plant. You need to plan 15 years ahead of time, and that's what the director said. And that's what we are doing at this moment. Where you plan for the government, when it's ready to take that decision, the plans have already been outlined, and then he can then plug into it and do whatever needs to be done. Thank you.
I think this is a practical contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to lie to you. In a continental initiative called Tuning Africa, a research was done with more than 300,000 students, more than 300 institutions, and the students were being asked, so in terms of get lunch. In terms of what you grapple with in the institutions, what is it that you want to be improved? You know, students said that the way that we are taught, I know there are certain students who want spoon feeding. I don't know, they want a paper qualification. But truly speaking, they were, most of them, about more than 80% said, the way we are taught is not giving room to innovation, creativity, because it's the lecturers who are doing it. And mostly, if it is a practical oriented course, it should show like 2/3 practical and 1/3 theory, or 3/5 practical and 2/5 theory. But is this what is happening in the institutions, ladies and gentlemen? This one, students, when you want spoon feeding, you want nothing. You don't want sustainable development. You don't want socio-economic development. And we don't know where you are going to work. And it supports what industry says, that you give us half-baked, and then sometimes you tend to believe it. Let's also give our students the opportunity to practice. And let it be practically oriented so that we groom the innovativeness, the creativeness in the students. What else do we need to do?
I want to contribute to that. I think one way the universities and then the research institutions can help is the gathering of data. In Ghana, data is very expensive. Every sector, data is easy to find data from World Bank, IMF on Ghana than to get the data from an institution in Ghana or from any ministry. It's a fact. And this is very, very important. So the things that, for all the ideas that we've channeled here, you know, whether it is solar, whether it is nuclear, whether it's biogas, whatever, we need to focus on gathering data. When you want to do modeling, you want to do analysis, bringing all the various options together, you are forced to pick data from Europe, data from US, and the economy and our economy are, you know, at variance. So it doesn't make it more realistic and, you know, real when you bring it down to our economy. So I think the universities and the research institutions will have to, you know, begin to acquire some of these data and focus on research in these areas and, you know, get rich data for future planning purposes.
I want to add that instead of conflict, let's have collaboration. You know, the element of multidisciplinary research and also the element of collaboration is an in thing. It's in fashion. If you are not doing it, I don't know where you will be. You heard him saying it. But even for funding, now funding organizations don't fund individuals because they disappear without a thing. They fund collaborations because they know that things will happen. And they have more than one people to make a follow-up of what is happening. So gone are the days. We really need to work on it and see how we can move on.
Just to add my voice to, he said, what are the alternative sources of energy that Ghana can rely on? And then the institution. And from the Ministry of Energy and Energy Commission, we should take all the energy sources seriously. Now, the question was raised. We have overcapacity of 2,000 megawatts. And there was this power challenges recently. And the answer is simple. It's because we are dependent or over-dependent on local gas. That's why. Local gas, in the sense, there's currently some technical challenge with gas production from our system. And as a result of that, we are experiencing it. So if the power plants are there, the gas is there. If there are technical challenges, even the supply chain can affect it. But if the energy system had been diversified, we wouldn't have gone through what is happening. So that's very, very important. Now, when it comes to the institutions and things, I want to add something to what Seth said. You see, I've interviewed some students. I also experienced when I was a student. There are instances, some lecturers, if you don't reproduce their notes, they mark you down. I'm a victim to that. If you don't reproduce his notebook, he'll mark you down. And I'm saying from my practical experience that I was getting poor grades simply because of that. Because I'm the type who will go and do the research and give a narration of the issues. And it will come and just mark you down simply because you didn't reproduce his notes. And some guys were getting A's simply because they were memorizing the notes. I'm talking from experience. So it's good. We have the right forum of lecturers here and we are talking to them. So let us also know that we are imparting knowledge and want to people like the carpenter man who learned his master will teach him this type of chair. 10 years time, you see him that he's not producing the same type of chair. This is the type of caliber of students we should produce. So that we should also learn that. Recently, even the previous education minister was saying that some lecturers are selling their lecture notes. You see? So we should also take note that some of these things have to be addressed. Some of these things have to be addressed very, very, very critically when it comes to research.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give people we haven't talked to today. Quickly, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Emmanuel Morisata from the Graduate School of Nuclear and Allied Sciences, a doctoral candidate to be specific. I also think that science communication is a very I think that science communication is a very big problem. Science communication. One time, United Nations held a workshop on science communication, and I had the opportunity to attend. And there was one journalist who said that in his own free time, he goes to sit in the presentations of the agric students, those who are graduating. And when he goes there, he doesn't understand. He doesn't seem to understand anything. So he did not find interest in it again. What I'm trying to say here is that even when the number of planets were reduced, the first place I heard that was in BBC. We heard that there. Are we also training communicators for our research? I know that people come out with very nice research results, but we don't hear about them. And the journalists or the communicators can make a lot of noise. Do we have a portion for them in our institutions too? Even when you look at Ghana right now, you can see that this local language, Twi, is dominating. But most of the things we say in science don't have tree names. So if we can take some of these people if we can take some of these people and train them so that their research will be to convert some of these huge technical terms into when we're able to do that, we will see that our research will gain popularity, and we will not need to fight the cabinet or perhaps the politicians, because the whole community will make noise about it, and it will fight, just like the issue of the galamsey. It fought for itself because the community understood it to bit, and it didn't need much strength to fight over it again. So we need to take care of that.
Yes, you know what? I was impressed one day when we went to do the institutional evaluations at the University of Ghana. The 17 SDGs are displayed everywhere, and they are translated into Chi. What he's saying is true. Now, even if I'm in the community of the scientists, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes we just need to water down the language, because even for your colleagues, you can't be picking a dictionary every other time. And when you are taking it to the ministers and the MPs, sometimes in other countries it doesn't matter how learned they are. So it means you need to use the layman's language for them to understand and have a buy-in. Ladies and gentlemen, the issue of buy-in is very important. We need to make sure we have some collaboration and constant communication. What do we do? I think I'm now thinking along lines that we should have some forum which is going continuously. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I'll take it from there that we should actually have forums like this to be able to discuss some of these challenges that, you know, we find as students, as lecturers, as researchers, and try to share, you know, and hopefully come up with some common grounds. But I think that as one of the speakers said, if you have a carpenter, you employ him and you don't give him the right tools to use, I mean, your guess is as good as mine as to the quality of the product he's going to produce. So speaking from the point as a lecturer, if you are employed, I mean, you are employed to go in and produce, you know, quality graduates to move out into the industries and other areas to perform. But if you don't have the requisite tools, and when I'm speaking like tools is you don't have the labs, you know, a lecturer duty is not to go and create a lab. You suggest things that are necessary to build up the lab, and it's left with the institution to acquire these necessary equipments and tools to be able to train the students. And then also, it should also be currently updated. You can't continue to use the same thing over because technology is improving. So I think one thing that the institution can do is to maybe do some need assessment and see how relevant our current labs are to training, you know, this generation of future scientists and leaders. And another thing is that in terms of the curriculum, I know that regularly the National Council for Tertiary Education allows university to, you know, look at the curriculum, re-accredit it every 5 years. And I mean, the University of Ghana, we do that often. But as it goes into the curriculum, you need the tools to work. If you don't have the tools to train students, having solar modules, having other modules to use, you can't do it. And I think that there should be partnership also between the various institutions and industries, so that even if we don't have it but industries have, it's a win-win situation, because we are training students to go out there and work in industries. So if industry is able to make, you know, some of their facilities available for us to have our students to learn, you know, doing internship, I think that will also be able to help. I know currently, in terms of alternative sources at the University of Ghana where I work, the university have started to develop much more interest in clean and green energy. And as a result, if you move on the university campus, you see that the bulbs have all been changed to LED. It looks so nice in the evening. And they are smart because they turn off when there's sun. So the university is also moving into developing 100 kilowatt of biogas and then 1 megawatt of solar farm. So the University of Ghana is now moving, and we are hoping that when these facilities are brought on board, they serve as training grounds for our students. So we don't have to go out to train them. We use the facilities which have been developed to actually train our students to become very good scientists. So I think that we can do a lot. And finally, I may, on the note as a lecturer, every lecturer here know that you must always try to update yourselves. And so we need also to have our institutions to assist us to go out for workshops, conferences, so that we interact and get current knowledge, so that we come back and be able to pass that on to our students. So I think that that will also help us as it relates to the question you just raised.
Hey, I just want to say one that out of what somebody said about showcasing what we are doing and make sure there's buy-in, the Association of African Universities came up with the AAU TV idea. This TV station, which you see now, we are broadcasting live. It's meant for us to give space to our member institutions so that the work they are doing can be seen by the whole world. And maybe, who knows, somebody can chip in to say, we are going to help you with funding to further your projects in renewable energy. So let's quickly wrap up now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quickly, short ones.
Yeah, just want to add to what the earlier speakers have said. This time, CortVet has come out with a curriculum development package that is a competency-based training. And currently, some technical universities are undergoing training to develop a curriculum where hands-on is the emphasis. So I think that what other colleagues have said is the way to go. The day of theoretical teaching and learning has gone, and or have gone, and we are in a practical area. But what we need to do is that it comes with some challenges. When the number is large, the student number is large, there could be a challenge. And resources, consumables. So these are some other challenges. And the fact that it is a new thing, sort of, away from the traditional means of teaching and learning, lecturers and students buying into the concept is also an issue which we need to address. So it therefore means that, as all of us are saying that there's a need for practical orientation, we need to be hammering it, and we need to be encouraging colleagues that there are new ways of doing things. The way we used to do things in the past is no longer helping us, so that we can quickly buy into it and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I would also like to say that we should move away from the simulation kind of research, and we should apply the kind of research that we have done. I know UNE has done a lot of research, but no one is there to support them. So University of Energy and Natural Resources, they have a lot of things to display, but the funding is not coming. So we'll ask the technical wing. In the Act, you have a responsibility to create a platform, the Renewable Energy Act. You have a responsibility to create a platform and also to collaborate with tertiary institutions. Yes, so I would say that we plead with you that you shouldn't say political will, but you should come to our aid. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm also watching Richard Caffey University College. Please, my contribution is that if the Energy Commission can link up with the institutions, because sometimes some of the projects students has been developing or they come about, they are very essential. So if they can link them up to, like for instance, if a student is able to develop something like a wind turbine, and there's if VRA is having maybe a project on that, maybe the student can be picked up and trained so that he can what improve on it, and for some short time he can what improve and come out with a very good one.
Yes, thank you. I think our universities and research institutions should be agents of change as far as our socioeconomic development is concerned as a nation. Thank you.
Okay, I think to pick up from the two, you know what? We as the Association of African Universities, we have realized this problem that industry wants trained personnel from the as graduates, but they are not working towards the universities. The universities too always cry industry is not helping us, but they are not also working towards the industry. And we also have the mothers here. No one, everybody, they talk in their corner. They are not coming to me. I need them. They are not coming. So this is the reason why AAU has said no. Since they are not working towards each other, we are going to bring you together. So it's our sincere hope that from today on, we want to bring you together. So you heard what they said. Let's be practical. Aside the challenges, I think some of the things too, we hide again behind this thing of money, against this thing of challenges, unending challenges. Let's focus on how we are going to deal with those challenges. Very, very important. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very fruitful discussion. I just give you, we are running short of time. I wanted to give the chairperson just 2 seconds to wind off, but I'll give 1 second. So he will take his time now. Quickly, please.
Okay.
1 second. The Energy Commission, which have to be explained. Just 2 minutes.
Okay.
A minute or two.
Okay.
So you give to him, and then our chairman quickly does a wrap-up statement.
Mine is an answer to what can our institutions do. I think people have been in the field for over 10 years, over 15 years, and they are still there not doing anything. So I think our institutions can partner with the people on the field and have training courses for them, which will update them on new ways to solve problems in society.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just to run through some few issues that will include the energy efficiency system. Now, regarding energy efficiency, we are taking note of these new technologies, but we've seen that the way the dynamics are going, if you don't take every 2 years, you ban a technology and be changing your legislations. So what we decided that we are now going to set the standards. The efficiency standards will be there. Perhaps, for example, lumens per kilowatt hour or lumens. So that if you fall in, we pick you. Because who knows, even the incandescent bulb, somebody may be doing something to improve it. Only to realize one day that they have also improved the efficiency. So if you just said the law that ban incandescent bulb, tomorrow incandescent bulb becomes efficient and you have to revise or amend your laws. And we've gone through that experience with fridges, where the law will say that certain fridges from certain localities in the world should not be imported. Now they have improved, they have tropicalized those things. And the law is not being amended. So we learn from that lesson. And then to do that. And then there was one also on this biogas vehicles. The Renewable Energy Master Plan make provision for biogas for use and also alternative fuels like the biodiesel and all these things. So they are well captured in our in the plan, so that they will be taken care of. Of course, the infrastructure also have to be developed after they've been done. And then when it comes to the strategies, the political will and the rest, one area that we are looking is to approach industries that, you know, industries also have these social responsibility packages. This social responsibility part they use to develop communities and other places. So we are now approaching industries and the banks to give a slot of that package for energy development, including renewables and other energy options, so that we don't lay the burden, the funding burden on the government alone. Our renewable energy law is about 6 years old. They say there should be a renewable energy fund, and the fund is zero, though the law says there should be a fund. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I think we should clap for ourselves. We've actually engaged with the discussion. There wasn't a single point that it was boring, and we're all really contributing. So thank you all very much. At this point, we would like to call the Chief Rapporteur to give us a summary of the deliberations. He had a team to work with, and they will quickly run us through what they've put together. But I'm not sure it's the final version. I think they are planning to share a version with us. He will make that announcement so that we all make input, and then we can finalize it and accept it as the proceedings of this meeting, as well as the communique that we all approve. He's in the person of Mr. Kwesi Sam. He works with the Research Directorate here at the Association of African Universities.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A good conversation, they say, never ends. And so I believe that if we are given 6 hours, we still have a lot to say, and we may not even leave here within the scheduled period. But thank you so much for the insightful discussions that we've been able to have this afternoon, and then also to our wonderful presenters for the great things that you've shared with us. I don't know why my... Okay, but I think I would, because of time, I will just briefly. Okay. Okay. First of all, let me say that this is not the final communique. This is just a draft, and what we are going to do is that at the end of, I think by Friday, we should be able to share the entire document with all of us, and we will take input from everyone as well. So this is just the summary of everything that happened. All right. The summary of everything that happened here today. And so we gathered to discuss Ghana's energy supply and management, and we're looking at ways of promoting alternative sources of energy for Ghana. And that was very important. We have the brief introduction for the sake of time, because I'm going to share with all of us. You will be able to make input, so I wouldn't read. Then we had the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities, in the person of Professor Etienne Ehile, and Dr. Makuku explaining to us the relevance of such platforms for higher education institutions to dialogue with industry partners on key issues pertaining to higher education and then to socio-economic development of our continent as well. And so they made mention of the fact that this is the first one, and there are a lot of such platforms being created. And we are privileged that the first topic we are discussing is the energy crisis, or ways of coming up with alternative source of energy for Ghana. Now, the objectives of the forum, those of us who received the invitation, were so clear. Number one was to find out key sources of challenges to Ghana's energy supply, and then also identify other alternative sources, which this forum has been able to do so, and then assess the relevance of higher education in resolving the issues and its level of contribution towards resolving the energy crisis that we have, and possibly suggest feasible, unrealistic solution to the problem. I wouldn't go through the outcome, but the specific highlight, I have already shared a broader perspective of what Dr. Makuku and then Professor Hile shared with us. So we also had Mr. Samuel Japan coming in to share with us some few background of what has happened in Ghana in terms of energy dynamics. We also had Mr. Isaac Enison from the Energy Commission, who also shared with us key things that are happening in our energy sector and what the energy ministry together with the other stakeholders and partners are seeking to do. This is not the full thing that you said, but this is the summary of everything that you provided. We'll share with you, and then you give us your input as well. We had 2 presentations, very important presentations as well. I was happy that the presentations came from women, and so it gives us that kind of hope that we would do better in this area. And so we had 2 presentations as well, but most importantly, the first presentation that was done by Ama Kwashi, a PhD candidate from UNEM, highlighted some key things that we need to look at other alternative sources of energy. And I'm highlighting this because that is a purpose for our gathering. And so these were some of the things that she came up with, coming up with wind energy, biomass energy, and then what have you. These are very important to us, and we believe that we'll be able to take them into account. She also highlighted the relevance of higher education. What must we do to ensure that we contribute to the dialogue, or we contribute to the development or the expansion of energy supply in Ghana? And we've been able to capture something very few for all of us to be able to look at. Then the second presentation, I think I've interchanged. Yes, this was rather the second. She looked at the hydropower power potential along the Ankobra River, which was so much insightful. A lot of us know River Ankobra. I don't know how many of us have been there before, but she was able to make us know the relevance of that river that we are taking for granted. And if we are able to generate the hydropower from that river, the megawatt that would add on to our grid as well. Then there were a lot of communications, especially during the dialogue session. The team is still trying to put the key things together. We are not yet done. So we're able to highlight a few. You may not find your name in, but when we share the document with you on Friday, we'll be able to come up with every single statement that everyone had said or contributed today. Most importantly, the technical team will also share the videos with all of us, so that wherever you find yourself, you can listen to them and also make input as well. I think on this note, even though this is not a full presentation, I think I've been able to give a brief summary of whatever happened here, and then we'll issue the full paper for all of us to make our input. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kwesi and your team, for sharing this draft with us. We'll be looking forward to receiving on Friday. Please, I hope everyone registered. Just in case anyone came without registering, you can see me so that I take you to the registration lady to capture your email so that you don't miss out on any of this. Okay, at this point, I think our discussion, our dialogue has come to an end. Would want to take the chairperson's final remarks, and then AAU will officially close the session, and that will be done by Ms. Nodumo Dlamini. So for now, we'll go to Dr. Stephen Yamwa, who has been the chair for the session, for his final remarks.
Thank you very much. I think we've had 3 good presentations, and they did a good work. I will not go into the details, but I also want to thank all of you for sitting in throughout this program. Sometimes you go to a program, you start with a large number, but getting to the end, you find few people around. So we've done very well for sitting in. During the dialogue section, I think there was emphasis on the need to plan, have a long-term plan as a country to address our energy situation. There was also emphasis on the need to diversify our generation options, which is very critical moving forward into the future. Higher institutions, there was also the need for the academia also to collaborate in tackling the challenges that we have as a country, and also to develop curricula that will be relevant in addressing these challenges. Again, I think there was also emphasis on the fact that there has to be a collaboration between research and industry, so that the research and the activities that are taking place at the academic institutions and research institutions are relevant to what the industry needs for higher production. Now, putting all these together, and one contributor made a good point on that, is the issue of leadership and management. In all of these things, if there's no strong and focused leadership and management to ensure that all these ideas are, developed to reality, everything that we will say will come to naught. But I want to emphasize that we should not look at that leadership and management at the political level only. Wherever we find ourselves, we are in a way a leader. And the little that we do at our small institutions, offices, will all help in galvanizing this leadership and management focus that is required. In the 60s, Ghana's economy was comparable to South Korea. In the 60s. And I've attended a program where I met a South Korean who said Ghana government in the 60s donated items to them when they were in crisis. But now South Korea is one of the strongest economies. It was all due to strong leadership and management, but above all, committed citizens. Committed, that's very important. Sometimes an institution sponsor somebody to go outside for further studies and the person refused to come back. Okay, so these are some of the things that as individuals we should inculcate. With nobody will come to develop Ghana for us. It's Ghanaians that will develop Ghana. So we should commit to Ghana and make sure that we leave a better Ghana for our future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for overseeing this successful event. At this point, I would like to call on Ms. Nodumod Lamini. She's the Director of ICT, Communications and Knowledge Management here at the Association of African Universities.
Thank you, Felicia. Good afternoon, everyone. My job is to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and be with us today. We wish you a safe journey back, and we hope you will keep in touch with us. We hope you have registered so that we can continue keeping in touch with you. And thank you very much for all your contributions.
Thank you very much. So at this point, we've actually brought the program to a close. We want to thank you all for staying up to the end. I would just give a couple of announcements. We want to let you know that we'll be sharing the presentation made by Guy from South Africa. We'll share it with you so that and everything else, so that institutions that are interested in submitting proposals when it's time can do so, as well as I think we'll share all the other presentations. And then also to let you know that at AAU we actually organize a number of capacity building workshops. So if we share those ones with you as and when they are coming up, please feel free to register and participate. Some is on higher education, learner-centered teaching skills. And then there's also one on research communication and commercialization. I think someone made mention of research communication. And quite a number of other workshops on legal issues and in higher education and so many others. And then my last announcement is to let you know that we have some packed lunch for you. So as you step out, you would actually be attended to. Please try and pick something before you go. Thank you all so much for coming and for making this event a success. We hope to see you very soon. Thank you.